Welcome to our class Path to a New Primer, Nuts and Bolts. And we're going to be talking about universals of language. And this is the first of three videos on this subject, looking at chapter 3 in your primer guide. So when you're looking at universals of language, we're also talking about linguistics. So we're going to be looking at the common elements for all languages, the basics of linguistics, and how linguistics relates to developing literacy primers. We're looking at the building blocks for language. And if we have here the phone, phonetics, the phonology, morphology, and the morpheme and the word, grammar and the phrase, the clause, and a sentence, and then how all these are put together for discourse or meaningful conversation or communication. So we'll be looking at all these in a little bit more detail down the way. So the formal definition of linguistics is the study of the nature, structure, and variation of language, including phonetics, phonology, morphology, grammar, sociolinguistics, and pragmatics. And we'll be looking at these one by one. So first we're going to look at phonology, which includes the phone and the phoneme. So phonetics is the study of the sound waves made by the human vocal organs for communication. So how you're able to hear what I'm saying right now. Helps us produce, identify, analyze, and describe sounds of any given language. So a linguist will go in and study a language and identify all of the sounds that make up that language. And those sounds include consonants, vowels, and non-pulmonic consonants, such as clicks, glottal stops, and tones. So we're looking at the source of sounds and how they are made in the human vocal apparatus. So this is a picture of the human vocal apparatus. And in this yellow block here, we have the nostrils, we have the lips, we have the teeth, which is also called the dental. We have the oral cavity, the space kind of in your mouth. We have the tongue, we have the tip of the tongue, the front of the tongue, the back of the tongue, the root of the tongue. And so these all play a part in how sounds are made. And we also have the nasal cavity, the alveolar ridge, the hard palate, the soft palate, and the uvula, in the very back of the throat there. Then we also have the epiglottis, the larynx, the vocal folds, and the pharynx here. And the glottis. And the glottis is when you do a glottal stop, 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 up, stop. So that's that sound that's where that is closing off and on. And so these are all places in the mouth that change the shape and the sound and the way the sound is made. So to help identify these sounds so that they can catalog them, linguists have come up with the International Phonetic Alphabet. And so this is a part of the alphabet listing for consonants. And you can see here there's how they're made plosive. And this is where they're made in the mouth. And this is how the air is, where the air goes. So plosive, this is like a p, p, ba, ba. And so that's made with the lips. And there's just kind of the air goes p, p. So that plosive sound. So you also get the plosive with the T and the D. And these are alveolar, which means that they're, if you think about where the tongue goes behind the teeth for the t, t, and the da, da. And so what we haven't talked about yet is the difference between voiced and unvoiced. So the P and B are basically the same sound. The only difference is whether there's a vibration in the vocal cords back here. P, B, P, B, T, da, T, da. So it's the same placement in the mouth. It's just whether the vocal cords are vibrating or not. So I have the nasal sound, goes up through the nasal, and I some of these sounds I can't do because they're not in my language, and so they're a little harder. But if you take a phonetics course, they'll make you learn how to talk all of those languages, all those sounds. So then fricative down here, get that, and then I'm not sure. Okay. And then we have, so like the retroflex, where your tongue is doing strange things. The k, k, it's kind of back in the back throat uvular. You get that somewhere. You get from the German and Arabic, you get some of those other sounds going on there. Anyway, so that's just a little bit about that. Then you have the vowel chart, and it's not quite as precise because the vowel is usually just kind of made by the shape of the sound. And so based on where the sound is in the mouth and in the oral cavity and the shape of your mouth, how the different vowel sounds are made. Then we have our non-pulmonic consonants, and these are clicks and voiced implosives and ejectives. So like the So in some languages, some of the ones that I know in South Africa have the clicks as part of their sound categories. And so these are all play into how words are made. So in the resources on your assignment for this are some links to go and hear sounds and to explore those. So phonology, it's part of our phoneme, is part of our phonology. Phonology is the study of how sounds are organized and used in natural languages. So not every language uses, most languages don't use all of the sounds. It's made up some combination of those. So the phonological system of a language includes an inventory of the sounds and their features, and rules which specify how sounds interact with each other. I know in Portuguese you have some of the sounds that if they're with one letter it says one thing, and if it's with another letter it sounds another way. And so these all play in together to describe how sounds work in a language or their phonology. Now, in a phonology, the phoneme is the smallest phonetic unit in a language that is capable of conveying a distinction in meaning. For example, in English, the m of mat and the b of bat are phonetic units, phonemes, because they change the meaning of the word. So for the English phonemes, once again, you can click on those links in your assignment. And so I want you to go and click on those links and practice making some of the sounds, and maybe in the class comments, share a little bit about what sounds were new to you or what you weren't familiar with. And then we describe what data we use on the language data worksheet.